Death Battle's finally hit 150 episodes. Hard to believe it's already been 3 years and 50 episodes since Mario vs Sonic celebrated their passage into the triple digits. And now, here we are. Much like every other review I've done for the big Legacy Season episodes, I was originally planning to write up reviews for the episodes closely related to this one. In this case, the previous episodes to use a real person as a combatant, which is just Chuck Norris vs Segata Sanshiro. No, I'm not forgetting Justin Bieber vs Rebecca Black. I just don't want to give that episode any more attention than I already gave it in my Season 1 ranking. TLDR, it is my least favourite episode of the show. I don't think I need to elaborate much beyond the fact that this is literally a man in his 20s killing off 2 teenagers because they made some music people didn't like. It was probably hilarious back in 2011, but it's aged worse than any other death battle and it isn't even close. 1 out of 10. Also, I'm doing this a little differently from Nem because he's doing every gag episode in general that he hasn't talked about before. But I have nothing to say on the others that I haven't already said or am going to say in my remastered season rankings when those come around. Except for Chuck vs Segata because I wrote that section before I started my season 2 binge for that video, which will hopefully come out at some point this year, maybe. Somehow I managed to write about 6 minutes worth for that episode and I don't think I can manage that for the others. So instead, I'm just going to do what I did last time for Dragon Ball episodes and briefly go over each of them. Hercule vs Dan is the best one by a landslide, easy 10 out of 10. The jokes all land, the dynamic between the 2 idiots not knowing the other was a fraud leads to a ton of great interactions, the death is more or less perfect, the voice acting is some of the best in the series, what's not to love? Goomba vs Koopa and Smokey vs McGruff are both pretty fun, if nothing overly special, 7 out of 10s to both of them. Though one is on the much lower end of that rating for me. Red vs Blue has some of the cleanest martial arts in the post-Torian era of the series. At the cost of barely any good jokes and shithouse deaths across the board except for like 2 characters. It excels in ways I never expected, but flops in every aspect I was looking forward to. I like it, but the in-house team would have been better off swapping it with the SFM team for Batgirl vs Spider-Gwen, 6 out of 10. Deadpool vs Pinkie Pie is an episode I remember liking, and I do still like the start of the fight well enough. That is sadly about the only thing in this episode I liked on my most recent rewatch. It'll have its time when I get around to the Season 3 ranking, 3 out of 10, somehow not even close to the lowest point of the season, and that's kinda sad, not gonna lie, Wiz. Oh, and Deadpool vs The Mask, I actually haven't gotten around to rewatching yet. I still haven't even started Season 6 as of the time I'm recording this. I remember loving the episode though. The analysis is funny and the fight stands out a lot. Hopefully when I rewatch it, it retains the solid 8 out of 10 I gave it before. With the lightning round out of the way, there's still one more gag episode to cover before the main event. Let's talk about... Chuck vs Segata was a glow up in every way from their last attempt at using real people in verses. And that's because this time they focus on the exaggerated fictional version of that real person. This leads to a super fun analysis that brings up a lot of the wacky and silly shit both of these two have done. It's just a joy to watch. I know I ragged on Justin Bieber vs Rebecca Black for being dated, but this episode's just so fun that I don't really care. I know Chuck Norris jokes are usually unfunny, but there can occasionally be a good one here and there, and this episode has a good few of them. I love Chuck's end clip especially. Diving into a lot of obscure stuff for Segata was neat too. I loved learning about him since I had never heard of him before the episode came out. So with a really enjoyable analysis, I would hope the fight would be just as entertaining, and it is. I love the setup and how it's sort of open to interpretation. You can either believe Chuck got so sick of the Saturn ads that he just spawned Segata in front of him, or you can believe that Segata got so sick of Chuck changing the channel that he willed himself out of the TV. Whichever you go with, one of them broke reality just to beat the other one up out of frustration, and I love that. Then the fight starts, and I think this has some of the best pacing in any death battle ever. The way the fight gets gradually more grand in scale makes each moment of destruction feel more impactful than the last. Unlike something like Thanos vs Darkseid, where they jump from street tier to cosmic level destruction pretty much instantly. They start with regular human level punches, then Chuck brings out a gun. Then they destroy a wall, then a tree, then a building, then a forest, a mountain, the whole planet, the rest of the solar system, the sun, and then they close it off by obliterating everything. Every time you think they've gone as far as they're gonna, they take it even further and it helps the fight stay fresh and exciting. I also love how it incorporates some of the Chuck Norris facts and various references to Segata's commercials. Chuck gets the third fist, the instant lap around the planet, the earth pushdown, and the implication of universal destruction at the end is a neat reference to how his kicks are as powerful as the Big Bang. and Segata gets to tank the bullets like he did to the baseballs, create clones that grow in size, throw the rings of Saturn, which is really clever, and the entire last portion of the fight taking place in space is likely a callback to how his final commercial hit him in space as well. This fight feels like such a passion project. You could tell the people behind writing and animating this were having a blast. They're able to make it feel like so much happens in this honestly fairly short time frame. I was shocked when I found out the fight was only 3 minutes long because it feels like so much happens that it would have needed to be longer to fit it all in. But no, they somehow managed, and that's really impressive. A lot of fights nowadays that are similar in length or longer don't feel like they include nearly half as much as this one. Which isn't a dig at the modern seasons, Chuck vs. Segata is just that good. And then there's the ending, the supernova followed by the complete annihilation of everything, as both now decide to finally give it their all. Everything up until now, the obliteration of the solar system, that was the warm-up. And now that they've actually started trying, we lose sight of them after a single attack, only being able to see the constellation they left in their wake. A fight so intense that it takes them across dimensions according to Wiz in the end. I like that Chuck's final, or I guess first real attack was a roundhouse kick. That just feels right. And the constellation's always a joy to see whenever it shows up. This episode is incredible, no two ways about it. It manages to take a concept that was already dated by the time it was put into production and make it into something so absurdly fun that I can't give it any score lower than a 9 out of 10. I know I've just been gushing about it the whole time, but I'm not gonna pretend like it's flawless. Though to be fair, a lot of the flaws are pretty small, like the voice clip of Chuck at the start being way too hard to make out what he's saying, the black hole at the end flickering every few seconds, or how Segata for some reason shrinks back down by the end even though it was the giant one who got launched through the Earth. Probably my biggest issue with the animation is how all the Segata clones kinda just stand there and do nothing and then vanish for some reason. Segata was Alien X before it was cool. There are so few actual flaws in the animation that I would honestly give it a 10 if they called a winner. This being a draw feels like such a cop-out, and I hate when episodes do that. I didn't like it in Goomba vs Koopa, Deadpool vs Pinkie Pie, Eggman vs Wily, or the other one. Though at least two of those have the excuse of this is how we actually think it would go based on their sets of abilities. Chuck vs Segata ending in a tie feels so unsatisfying. Whenever a death battle does that, it feels like the several weeks of waiting were all for nothing, even when the episodes were good. This one had it especially bad since it came out right after Fett vs Samus Remastered, so we had a verdict we already knew followed by an episode with no verdict. That means between Garo vs Toph and Guts vs Nightmare there was a whole 9-week wait before a new matchup with a new verdict. It's not like they had no way to call it either, unless they somehow think Segata surviving that missile's equal to a Big Bang level kick. I don't know man, for all this episode gets right, it really loses itself in the end, and I think that's the most disappointing thing about it. A good ending can sell an episode even better, but a bad one can end even the best episodes off on a sour note. And that's why I unfortunately can't bring myself to give Chuck vs Segata a 10. Still, a 9 is very impressive, and it's a very high 9 at that. It's amazing, don't let the lack of a death at the end take that away. Oh yeah, there was no death at the end. Wiz says they're still going. So now you can all stop asking me where this episode was on my death ranking, especially when you also acknowledge why Deadpool vs Pinkie Pie wasn't on it. I can't rank a death that didn't happen. Okay, thanks, bye.
I'm the smarter. Hey, look!
What in the fuck did I just watch? Macho Man vs Kool Aid Man is like nothing the show has ever seen in regards to its structure. I knew that going in, but I still couldn't have expected anything like what we got. It took me until my third watch to have any idea what score I'd give it and where I was going to rank it compared to the rest of the season. This episode, on top of having Randy and Kool Aid Man fight, continues the overarching story about Boomstick's dad. Oh goody. I was worried they were going to retcon Sarge to not be his dad and make the only truly great Boomstick's dad joke retroactively unfunny, which they thankfully didn't do. But to be completely blunt, I didn't like this B-plot. It had some decent character moments. I appreciate that they're trying to make their cast feel more like actual characters instead of audible respect threads. And it also has the one dad-related joke I found funny this season where Boomstick thinks he's the son of the Kool Aid Man. I like that. The stuff with Mama Boomstick at the end is also fine, I guess, but it did nothing for me. Nobody in the group I watched it with resonated with it at all, but I'm sure someone out there who watched the episode needed to hear it. So if it did resonate with anyone, then I'm happy about that. There's never any point where I actively hate what's going on with this plot, except when Deadpool shows up again, actually please fuck off, but I still didn't care for it. Again, it's cool that they're trying to do some more world building of sorts with Death Battle's cast of characters, but I can tell that having as much animation in the analysis as they did must have taken up a huge portion of the episode's budget. I appreciate the attempt to branch out and do something new, and if this didn't actively detract from the Macho Man vs Kool Aid Man part of the video titled Macho Man vs Kool Aid Man, then I wouldn't mind it. But it's plain as day that this drained the budget to where we got the shortest episode we've had in years. If it came down to whether we could wrap up the Boomstick's dad arc or get more actual fighting to use more of the characters' wacky abilities that they never got to use, or take things much higher in scale, I would have taken more fighting in a heartbeat. This is amongst the episodes with the most missed potential this season, and that sucks. This episode's more focused on trying to wrap up a series of jokes that hasn't been funny in years than it is trying to actually be a showcase of the insane shit that these two are capable of. Yes, they do go into that, but the actual death battle side of things is over before the episode even reaches the 10-minute mark. It's a damn shame, because whenever this episode is actually focusing on the match people are there to see, it's amazing. I love the analysis in spite of how short it was. I know some people have issues with the pacing of it, but I didn't mind at all. Switching back and forth between them made it stand out. I liked when Wiz and Boomstick started arguing and taking sides once the fight started. The conclusion being covered by Jocelyn and Dummy was neat, the editing's stellar, the jokes were landing, I enjoyed it. The animation's superb as well. The hand-drawn art style is super expressive, it's free of any noticeable jank, and it uses their powers to give some real standout moments in the brief time that they have to fight. My favourite of which might be them using the same imagery as the creation of Adam painting, that's good shit. The audio side of things is just as strong as the visual side, with two amazing voice performances by Anthony Sardina and Tom Schalk as Randy and Kool Aid Man respectively. They're incredible and they bring these characters to life in a way few other performances this season can match, except for Thon, Poe, Yoda and Mickey. The track's good too, fittingly titled Oh Yeah. It's fun, bouncy and fits the fight well. Probably wouldn't listen to it on its own, but it works in a similar way to Goodbye Chimichanga, where all the tonal shifts are weird on its own, but they work amazingly as part of the fight. Speaking of the fight, the actual fighting is fun. And while they missed out on a bunch of potential thanks to the short length of the fight, especially for the Kool Aid Man, they made great use out of the little they were able to do. Again, especially for the Kool Aid Man. I like him using his juice as a shield and as a way to fly. He uses his time rewinding to reverse the momentum of being thrown, knocking himself back into Randy. And then there's the stuff in the Kool Aid dimension. It's brief, but I love it. Luis made the claymation style look amazing, and I don't mind the frame rate here unlike in Blake vs Mikasa, because it fits the stop motion style. Plus it remained consistent for the entire scene instead of animating the characters on 2s, while the background in Kool Aid Man's liquid are animated on 1s. If only this wasn't spoiled ahead of time, then it would have gotten a much bigger reaction out of me. I wouldn't mind seeing a full battle animated like this. Maybe Jack Skellington vs the Grinch, the goated Verminator vs Victor Quartermain, or something Lego related. And already we are at the ending. Well, it's creative and I like it. Kool Aid Man trying to trap and drown Randy makes even more creative use of his unique toolkit, as does Randy drinking his way out and then Kool Aid Man making the Kool-Aid erupt from Randy's chest to take the win. Though this is where I've seen a lot of people start to say they hate the episode. And if you don't like it, or you're bummed about Randy dying, then that's perfectly fine. Not every episode's going to appeal to everyone, especially one this experimental, and it can sting seeing your favourite character die on the show. But I've seen a good amount of people trying to paint the folks who worked on this episode as fucking villains over this. This isn't the, oh, Ben 10 lost, you guys don't know what you're talking about kind of outrage. This is people genuinely trying to say that the Death Battle crew are bad people over this. People are going around saying that this is tarnishing the legacy of the real Randy Poffo, which it's not. Respect is still shown to him throughout the episode, he's not brutalised, and also Randy Savage is not actually the real life Randy Poffo. He's just one of many roles he played that Randy happened to get super into. This isn't anywhere comparable to something like Justin Bieber vs Rebecca Black, where it's a grown man brutally killing off two actual teenagers while actively shitting on them the whole time. This isn't anything even remotely like that. Then you've got the people who are saying it's tasteless because his death involving his chest is too similar to the heart attack that the real Randy died from, which kinda feels like a desperate reach to twist things to make the Death Battle team look worse. The kill never at any point involved or drew attention to his heart. It just happened in an area close to it. If the kill doesn't sit right with you or you're upset about Randy's loss, then again, that's fine. But people are trying to take the moral high ground over this even though the match has been confirmed for years, long after Randy's death. Randy losing has always been a possibility, but people for some reason encouraged it for years and only just now started objecting right after it got revealed. If they did the episode within a year or so after Randy's IRL death, or had him die via a heart attack or by Kool Aid Man crushing him with a car or something, then yeah, that would be fucked up. But the episode goes out of its way to hype him up, avoid any potentially touchy subjects, go for a kill that has borderline no gore, and has him get revived in the end while implying that this is just something he and Kool Aid Man do every week. Which, yeah, to get things back on a cheerier note, that was a nice charming way to end the death battle side of the video, I liked it. Well, with that out of the way, I had better wrap up the review. What did I think of the episode overall? After 4 viewings, I still have no idea. I loved when it was actually Macho Man vs Kool Aid Man, I disliked when it wasn't, and I would have traded the B-plot for more fighting without hesitation. I guess if I'm to give it a score right now, I'd say maybe a 7 out of 10, but I have no idea how that's gonna change over time. So, Dio vs Alucard's next. Who could have seen that coming? My list of hopes is very small. I want Dio to say the word burn, I want the fight to be less than a minute long, half of which is the intro. I want Dio to teleport behind Alucard, shoot off his head, and then have Alucard die from the decapitation. Unironically though, it'd be cool to have an aesthetic similar to the DBX of this match. Don't make the dialogue all JoJo's and Hellsing Ultimate abridged memes. And it could be cool if we don't actually see Dio's time stop or the world at the start of the fight, only the effects of him using them until Alucard figures it out. And then after that we could see them. That's everything, I have no stakes in this match, just make it as good as Nem's favourite DBX and it'll be an instant 11 out of 10. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. Having to talk about the community backlash wasn't something I was hoping to do, but I felt like I kinda needed to because some of the shit I've seen people saying in servers I'm in doesn't sit right with me. But the episode was fun outside of that at least. All that's left is the highlight reel, so hopefully you guys enjoy that and I'll see you in the next video.
I fucking knew that was gonna be it. That's what it's gonna be.
You can look at the Kool Aid Man thing. It's just...
Yeah, you know, I could see there was someone.
Ooh! Ah, that's cool.
Yeah.
A new visual style, like Universe is number 50. Oh, my favorite movie ever made.
Oh my god, I'll split the moon. Yes, he did destroy the sun.
Oh, Stewie Griffin! Let's go.
I see time, I see time.
What?
Yeah.
Time, thanks.
Wait, he can create stars?
It's evil Stewie.
The Kool Aid Man has constellation creation.
What?
Is that the first time dummies show back up since the season came back?
I don't think it's the first time.
Broke, by the way. Okay.
Oh, well, that's a Macho Man.
Okay, I see.
Hey, they are copying Royal Rumble. That's crazy.
This is like Goku vs Superman 2, but good.
I don't dislike this, yeah.
Wait, what? It's still going!
Heal the dead?
Oh, I see. I see what they're doing.
Isn't that just a Skyrim mod?
Oh, so they're arguing!
Oh my god,
God.
they're debating
Oh my
it.
goodness.
Come on, bud! Your dad's got this! Oh, yeah! Forget it.
That's
Okay, this is I
Yo!
like this. I really like this.
Oh shit!
Oh, let's go, Kool Aid Man. Oh my god.
Oh no, he did the Slim Jimmy Kool-Aid!
Kool-Aid dimension. Yo!
Yeah! Oh, they get the Kool-Aid Man's world. That's why it looks like that.
That was great.
That was quick, but that looks so fucking cool.
He's drowning.
Jesus!
May! That's fucked! That's fucked!
He's drinking him! Oh! He drank him! No! Oh shit! Kool-Aid Man! Oh shit!
Yo.
Jesus!
Oh no!
Jesus Christ!
Then that
Oh my fucking god!
Oh my god.
Yeah, Kool-Aid did it! Kool-Aid Man won!
What?
Kool-Aid!
Greater than even
Ow?
wrestlers.
Oh no, this means people are gonna be
Yeah, people are gonna be really obnoxious
for a
about
while.
this.
Oh no.
Oh, shut up!
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Hey!
By the way,
Yeah! You badass!
I really hope that'll shut people up, I'll be honest.
It will absolutely not.
Come on, he brought back to life!
Oh my god! What the hell is this episode? What is this episode?
Oh my goodness.
Sarge.
Is that you, Bobby?
Oh
I don't
my
like this.
god.
What the heck?
Oh.
What is this episode?
Okay, Kool Aid Macho Man.
What the hell was that?
Man, that was
That was fun though.
nuts. That was fucking nuts.
What the hell was that?
I
More
love.
like an episode of
I
an
love
animated
that.
show.
It did.
Alright, do you
The
have
deal
Alucard?
Alucard.
Next time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yours, the All for One versus the Annihilator trailer music. Let's go.